Hello，来听一个财报，好久没有听财报了，不过这个季度开始感觉有意思起来了。那么我们看一下财报是刚刚出来之后，股价应该是有一个比较大的一个跌幅哈，所以大家应该是对财报现在是处于一个不大认可的状态。那主要的话，这个季度是背景大概是这样，一方面呢是特斯拉的车辆是拿到了最强交付季度啊，应该是历史上最强，好像是，尤其是还有是收入的话，总收入应该也是创造了一个历史最高。我就可以看一下这个它的，可以看一下它这边的历史营收应该是超过了去年第三季度啊，达到了一个历史最高，就交付很强，那营收也很强，但是。之前大家比较担心的一个点是它的一个利润率是不是会变薄？那么确实也如大家所担心那样，就是尤其是在运营利润率这边是降的比较厉害，降这么多，降到1.4%，然后的话，每股收益的话其实也是算是不尽如人意吧。那么最低的预测华尔街给出的大概是0.2左右吧，上下，然后最高是改到0.7几啊。那么这个算是在中间偏下的一个位置。还有就是现金流是变成一个负的。总体看起来感觉可能是现在特斯拉，也不是说它那个就是卖的价格太低，促销太厉害导致的，因为就是说它的总营收还是创了一个比较好的记录嘛，所以其实卖的价格倒还行，那可能是表现出来的，尤其是这边现金流和它的运营的花销这边可以看出来，就是它可能是进入一个花钱的模式啊，烧钱的一个模式。这我倒觉得反而是有意思的一个地方，因为就是特斯拉过去的很长的一段时间里，感觉就是不温不火。那么现在的话，它可能在 AI 或者机器人产线，还有这个是，Robotaxi 这个事情也不好说啊，就是有那么几个产线确实是开始花钱花多起来了，所以就这个事情或者变得更有意思起来。你可以看这边的一个对未来的预期里面，这句话比较有意思，对吧？就说他们说是 ensure a strong balance sheets。对吧？要 maintaining sufficient liquidity， 就说我还是会保持一个有比较好的一个现金存量。那其实言下之意反而是在说他们接下来可能会更加积极的去花钱去投资啊。这个我觉得应该是就是说特斯拉的发展阶段来到了一个相对比较有意思的阶段。而且个人其实最好奇的是他跟 SpaceX 就合作的那个部分，也就是他们要做的。晶圆厂啊也好啊，或者说是以后做就是跟算力卫星相关的，包括是太阳能板，各种元件、元晶和一些芯片啊等等，可能都要自己做啊。这个部分呢，可能是他们怎么去做，这个其实计划有点不清楚吧。这个我觉得是特别有意思的一些地方，大家可以听一下。Robotaxi 可能是另外一个令人特别失望的一个点嘛，就虽然说它现在铺开的城市变多了，但是比它去年的预告是要差很多很多的。去年可能说要美国一半的面积，但现在只有7个城市里面的7个城市里面的一小部分。而且呢，其实可以这边这个图是特别让人失望，就是这个是 Robotaxi 的一个测试里程数的累积图，对吧？你可以看到。你其实看到最近从4月份到6月份，它其实是放慢的啊。它在铺开的过程中，它不仅没有加速，还变慢了。那么这也是很多有小道消息一直在说的，就是说是特斯拉其实做的比较谨慎，它好像是每个城市的测量反而变少了。所以我们先来看一下，来听一下。
Our Q2 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the question and answer portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please use the raise hand button to join the question queue. Before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Thank you. So, yeah, it's been a great quarter. We achieved record Q2 deliveries. Model Y, I believe, I think it's the best-selling car of any kind in the world. and is setting records across the board. So its popularity is increasing tremendously, and we're seeing in locations that have FSD approved, we're seeing a very high take rate of FSD, and in fact, I think for a lot of people, they're actually buying Tesla Full Self-Driving with a car attached, as opposed to a car with FSD. They're coming into our stores in the U.S. and saying they want the Full Self-Driving, and with whatever car it comes with, essentially. So clearly, this is a significant demand driver, and as we get approval for FSD in different countries, I think we'll see a similar uptick in demand. Yeah, it's looking very good on that front. The energy business is also growing incredibly fast, and I think will be crucial for the scale up of artificial intelligence data centers. We're investing a lot in growing the core business and really preparing for the future. So this is a massive capex year, but I'm confident that all the things that we're investing in are will yield incredible returns. Really, maybe the best capex returns that we've ever seen. And just the Tesla team has performed incredibly well. The Cybercab has started production, and we also have started production and are ramping in. We will soon start production with Optimus. We have started production with the Tesla semi-truck. We will soon start production with Megapack 3. We've started production with the lithium refinery, the cathode refinery. We're scaling up battery cell production, and we're also preparing to do a massive solar panel, like solar cells and panel production. Actually, this is going all the way from silicon refinement to producing the solar cell and then deployment of solar, because there's going to be tremendous need for electricity in the future due to electrification of transport and AI, obviously. So we're working on what we believe is the most ambitious build-out of advanced infrastructure and manufacturing capacity ever in history. It's a big deal. So with Robotaxi, our goals are very ambitious for Robotaxi, but we do need to be cautious about causing any accidents or causing any harm to anyone. Although there are, I think, 30 to 40,000 automotive deaths per year in the United States alone, most of those do not generate any press on it. You never really read about almost any of those. But if we injure even one person, it will be worldwide headline news, and regulators will immediately clamp down on our activities. And we don't want to injure anyone. So we're going as fast as humanly possible in scaling Robotaxi, but while trying to ensure that we do not harm anyone at all, and ideally do not even run over a pet. So that's really the constraint. Is we want to grow as fast as possible with Robotaxi without harm to anyone. And we're providing live updates for Robotaxi launch as we open up in a city. We immediately post that on X. So if you just follow the Tesla account on X, we'll keep you informed as we scale to new cities. We've opened up in a number of cities in Florida and in Texas, and obviously in the Bay Area. So we'll continue to scale, I think, very, very rapidly with it looks like more than 10% a week in terms of miles driven. So it's a very high compound growth rate. So let's see, Optimus. As you've heard me say before, I think Optimus will be the biggest product ever, but it is a very complex problem to solve. It's one of the hardest things to solve, to make an autonomous humanoid robot that can do tasks that if you simply ask it to do something or show it a video, it can do the task without any programming. Like no one's ever achieved this. And there are many challenges in the electromechanical design of the robot to achieve sufficient dexterity and also be very reliable and have long wear and tear. Like meaning it needs to be out in the field and not break down. Otherwise, you've got sort of a 70-kilogram robot that just flopped over, and you've got to carry it out like a body. You know, it doesn't have wheels. So and we don't want Optimus to go haywire. It's a lot of work to scale to get the design right and to scale production. And I really want to emphasize here that the production scaling challenge is very substantial. This is going to be the hardest product to scale manufacturing that we've ever made at Tesla, because everything on the robot is new, and the difficulty of scaling the production ramp is proportionate to the newness of the parts in the robot. And you know, at least with electric cars, the non-electric powertrain portions of the cars had an existing supply chain. So you could go to existing suppliers for wheels and side mirrors and windshield glass and that kind of thing, body panels. But with Optimus, there is no supply chain. So we've had to build up a supply chain in its entirety, or in-house the production, and we've in-housed a tremendous amount. The Optimus production line that we're building out in Fremont, in place of what used to be the Model SX production, it looks incredible. I mean, it's quite stunning to see. So I just want to make sure to calibrate people correctly. Optimus will follow the sort of normal S curve of manufacturing of a manufacturing ramp, but the initial portion of the X curve will be quite flat and long because of the newness of the parts in the robot. Now you've probably seen lots of impressive demonstrations of robots on the internet, but those demonstrations you're seeing are pre-programmed or remote controlled. So there is no humanoid robot that is actually able to do generalized tasks. Optimus will be the first one that is capable of doing that, where it's not just a demo; it's genuinely useful in day-to-day life. So, and Optimus is designed to have full human dexterity, so a hand that has the same level of dexterity, if not higher, than a human hand. And the human hand is an incredible thing. The more you study the human hand, the more amazing you realize how amazing hands are. It's more than just opposable thumbs. I mean, the nuances of how human hands work are amazing. As the closer you look, the more amazed you are. And Optimus will have that capability. It'll have human and then superhuman dexterity. So it's really going to be quite something. Let's see, Terafab. You know, the Terafab, we expect to announce the location soon, and provide more details about our plans in that regard, which we'll leave that to the product, sort of the launch announcement, rather than try to squeeze it into an earnings call, because I think this is a very big announcement, and it deserves to have its own sort of day in the spotlight and not be sort of squeezed into an earnings call. But I do think Terafab is going to be an amazing initiative and a necessary one, and one without which we will be constrained in our ability to scale Optimus production, because we simply won't have enough AI chips. So it's crucial to solve that, and we'll have to solve memory, logic, and packaging in order to scale Optimus. But anyway, like I said, we'll leave that to its own announcement. We've placed equipment orders for our development fab in Austin, and the that development fab, I think, is pretty cool because it's intended to have lithography mask production, and then logic, memory, and packaging and chip testing all under one roof. So you can have a very fast iterative cycle, and try out new chip designs very quickly and see if they work. I don't think such a building exists anywhere on Earth. So this is really going to be super helpful as we try some exciting, adventurous, high risk, high payoff bets on AI chips. But it's focused, like I said, on primarily on Optimus. Like, how do we make Optimus as useful as possible? Then we have digital Optimus, which is basically just driving a computer screen. I guess you could call it computer use or something like that. But driving a computer screen in the same way that you drive a car. So for the car, it's sort of pixels in or photons in and controls out. The same thing is true for Optimus and digital Optimus. It's photons in, controls out. So we feel confident we can adapt the same Tesla AI technology that we developed for self-driving cars to have a self-driving computer screen, or self-driving computer, essentially. So the self-driving computer, where the Tesla, the very, very low cost Tesla AI4 computer can handle all of the sort of short-term tasks. They're doing real-time video control of the screen of the computer. So it's not like screenshots type of thing. It's real-time video at high frame rate. And digital Optimus will be important, obviously, for physical Optimus, because physical Optimus needs to be able to operate computers. It can't come up to a touchscreen and not know what to do. It's got to have a generalized touchscreen and computer use capability. So that's looking promising. Then this is in partnership with SpaceX's Grok, sort of the big model that is kind of like the manager of digital Optimus, and kind of tells digital Optimus what to do, provides it with a series of tasks, and then digital Optimus goes and does those tasks. We're also building out a megapod design that has Tesla AI4 computers with x86. So pairing an x86 computer with the Tesla AI4 computer in a box. And it's kind of just digital Optimus in a box. And in a megapod, kind of like the Megapack packaging. And so where we put just a large number of AI4 plus x86 combos in a giant box, essentially. And that these boxes can be placed anywhere in the country or outside the country. And this allows us to scale AI compute using disaggregated electricity production. So because there's lots of places all around the world, including at our superchargers. I think we've got something like 7 gigawatts of power at our superchargers and growing. And we can place megapods at many of these superchargers and have distributed power for AI. So I think that could be quite a big deal. So in conclusion, we're super excited about our autonomy and robotics roadmap. There's so much awesome stuff coming. It's like I said, hard to squeeze into an earnings call. But we'll have a lot of product announcements. And this is going to be a great year for Tesla. I think one of our best years ever. And then I think next year will be even better. So in conclusion, I want to thank the Tesla team for their excellent execution and all of our supporters for joining us in this journey. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Elon. And now Vaibhav has some opening remarks.
Thanks, Travis. So Q2 continued the trend that we saw at the end of Q1, a resurgence in demand for vehicles across the globe. We achieved record Q2 deliveries globally with sequential growth across the Americas, APAC, and EMEA of 60%, 27%, and 12% respectively. Additionally, Model Y set records in several key markets, including the Netherlands, Australia, and New Zealand. The efforts of the Tesla team to create compelling products at a reasonable price with the capability of autonomous driving are coming to fruition. We exited Q2 with our largest order backlog since 2023. We are therefore focused on increasing production at all our factories to meet this growing demand. Production growth will be limited by our supply chain. This includes not just batteries, but also electronic components. We've been here before, and like always, our Tesla team is working actively to unblock the obstacles ahead by securing strategic deals with suppliers. Like Elon mentioned, one of the key factors for vehicle demand has been FSD. Our sales data suggests one of the main reasons customers are coming and looking at the car is because of FSD. In Q2, we had in North America about 55% of our deliveries had FSD subscription at the time of delivery enabled. Overall, FSD attach rates continue to improve, reaching nearly 1.5 million paid customers globally, of which 55% is upfront purchases and the remaining 45% is subscriptions. We expect that the bulk of the growth in FSD monetization will come from subscriptions as we've removed the purchase option in most markets. Automotive margins, excluding regulatory credits, declined sequentially from 19.2% to 16.3%. As a reminder, we had highlighted in Q1 that we had a $230 million benefit from warranty true-downs and some tariff relief, which did not repeat in Q2. Controlling for the impact of those benefits from the prior quarter, our automotive gross margins, excluding credits, would have been approximately flat. This demonstrates the effective pricing and cost management done by the Tesla team as we continue to drive demand. Commodity price increases and interest rate changes all continue to add to our costs. Note that interest rate subvention costs are recognized upfront as revenue offset. So as interest rates have risen this year, the cost of subvention has risen along with them, which had a negative impact on automotive margins. As we have previously noted, energy business is inherently lumpy. Deployments are tied to customer timelines and largely out of our control. In Q2, we deployed 13.5 gigawatt hour of energy storage, a 53% sequential increase, and the second largest quarter for energy business. Despite this growth, energy gross margins declined from 39.5% to 20.4%. This margin decline was a result of several dynamics. First, there was a warranty true-up in the quarter of about $240 million related to certain vendor cell issues for our legacy deployments. Also, the tariff benefits we recognized in Q1 of more than $200 million did not repeat. And lastly, we had previously guided that ASPs for industrial storage is coming down amidst growing competition. Long term, we believe the energy business should normalize at a gross margin rate in the mid to low 20% range. Our order backlog of this business is robust, and we are doing our best to build based on both existing demand and future demand we expect from data center growth and overall electrification of the economy. Service and other margins improved sequentially from 9.2% to 14.1%, an all-time high. This was mainly driven by an uptick in volume and better cost management of our vehicle fleet that supports businesses such as used car, supercharging, service centers, and insurance. While marginal today, also included in this business are deliberate investments we are making in infrastructure that will help scale robotaxi in the future. We continue to grow the Tesla robotaxi fleet and have expanded to a total of 7 markets in the US. We expect the ramp of the fleet to accelerate throughout the year, along with expansion into new US markets. As previously guided, operating expenses increased sequentially. The increase came primarily from significant research and development related activities, including pre-production ramp costs for new products like the semi-truck, Optimus, Cybercab, and other AI initiatives, as well as depreciation for an additional compute that we brought online. Additionally, we had charges related to litigation expenses in the quarter. Note that we are in a big investment cycle and expect our operating expenses, largely driven by R&D, to continue to grow in 2026 and beyond. Net income was positively impacted by a mark-to-market gain of $1 billion on our SpaceX holdings, which was offset by losses on FX of approximately $300 million and on Bitcoin of about $100 million. As previously guided, our free cash flow ended up being negative for the quarter. Most of the reason for it going negative is because CapEx more than doubled sequentially, and we expect it to increase further in the second half of 2026. We continue to expect that CapEx for this year will be more than $25 billion. CapEx will grow for the next 2 or 3 years as we expand our robotaxi fleet, expand our production capacity for Optimus, make investments for semiconductor fab, install solar manufacturing capacity, and AI compute infrastructure, in addition to all the other expansions we'll do for other manufacturing for automotive. In addition to using our cash for such investments, we are being opportunistic in securing certain debt facilities that will give us the capacity to borrow up to $30 billion to help accelerate such investments. We believe this is the right strategy to position the company for the next era, and we'll always make such investments in a very capital efficient manner. The path to amazing abundance is ever challenging and requires making bold bets. Our progress will be non-linear. The future is going to be great, and we are ready to rise to the occasion. I would like to end by thanking the Tesla team, our customers, investors, and suppliers for their confidence in us on this journey.
Thanks so much, Vaibhav. As everyone on the call may have noticed, we've covered several of the Say.com questions already in opening remarks, including Optimus production, Terafab, and Digital Optimus. Ashok is joining us today, our VP of AI, and he's going to cover questions related to robotaxi. Ashok?
Thank you, Travis. Many of the questions on Say.com relate to robotaxi deployment and scaling, so we thought we'd provide a comprehensive view of where we are now and where we are going in the future. First of all, I'd like to state that the robotaxi program has been operating extremely well. Especially in terms of safety, the program has had an impeccable safety record. We have driven more than 380,000 miles of unsupervised robotaxi, now across 6 cities in 2 different states. We have had 0 notable incidents. Any reports have been of other actors impacting us when we were stationary. Again, I like to emphasize how safe the operation has been so far. 0 notable incidents over 380,000 miles. Historically, the so-called experts have always claimed that you need LiDARs, radars, HD maps, and the entire kitchen sink to drive safely. Here we show that such is not true. You can have safe, comfortable, and affordable autonomy with just cameras. This record should be a huge validation of Tesla's entire AI approach. Second, I'd like to discuss scaling. We started the robotaxi program roughly a year ago in Austin. We had safety monitors in the passenger seats of the cars back then. Around the end of last year, we had the first fully unsupervised robotaxis in Austin. Since the beginning of this year, we have grown at double-digit growth rates to the number of unsupervised miles that the fleet drives every week. I repeat, we have grown at such a high compounding rate on a week-over-week basis over the last several months. Not only that, we expect to continue growing at such a large rate through the rest of this year. The other thing to note is that for expanding to new cities, it has been relatively less effort on our front. We expect that the time to launch to a new city will continue to trend towards 0, towards an end where we operate in entire states as a whole instead of going by city by city. Such growth was only possible because we have a world-class engineering team at the frontier AI development here at Tesla. the currently operating robotaxi fleet is already running early versions of the V15 FSD software that we had referred to in the past. For V15, we had planned roughly about 7 major improvement tracks, and they're all happening in parallel. The early V15 builds that are running on robotaxi have already 40% of those tracks merged together, and that's what's running in the fleet right now. As we continue to complete our work on V15, we will see that the car is going to be ridiculously safe and capable. We're already seeing internal signs that all of these bets that we have made for technology improvements are all continuing to starting to work, and we expect that the payoff will be huge, and that's what is going to help us sustain the same growth rate through the rest of this year and so on. Finally, regarding the CyberCab, first of all, it's a phenomenal product. Anyone who rides in it instantly falls in love with the experience. We have aligned our manufacturing targets to roughly match the projected growth rate of the unsupervised miles. The same V15 models that power the Model Y and other platforms will also work on CyberCabs. In conclusion, robotaxi growth so far has been literally exponential while keeping an impeccable safety record. Our technology bets are paying off, helping us sustain the exponential growth for the foreseeable future, and the CyberCab is going to be awesome.
That's great. Thanks so much, Ashok. And there was one remaining question on data collection for Optimus training. Would you mind covering that as well?
Yep, definitely. Regarding Optimus, especially Gen 3, Optimus has been designed to not just match the appearance of human beings, but also the functionality and dexterity of humans. One of the main reasons for this approach is that having the human form factor and function allows us to learn from humans on how to perform a wide variety of tasks. This opens up the entire world to provide data for training Optimus. Just like FSD, we have access to a broad fleet of humans giving us data from all of the workers at our factory. Optimus can learn quite a bit from observing them perform their tasks at the factories. We also have a dedicated data collection team who can provide a relatively small amount but of very high quality demonstrations to do the post-training of these models. This is all on top of any training we can do off of the entire internet of data that shows demonstrations of people doing various tasks, both in industrial settings and home settings. The second flywheel is when we have a large number of Optimus robots practicing their tasks in what we call the Optimus Academy. The data from the bots experiencing the tasks themselves will be invaluable and help us close any minor form factor gaps that may exist between the bot and the humans. This is also when the reinforcement learning loop kicks in, where the bot initially attempts some tasks, fails sometimes, learns from both the successes and failures of those tasks, and eventually learns to master those tasks at perhaps a superhuman level. Our AI strategy for Optimus is aligned with the same. It's the same end-to-end strategy that drives FSD, pixels in, controls out. And just like FSD, we expect it to work broadly. In FSD, you can get in the car, type in an address, and then hit start, and it's like handles all of driving from park to park. And the same thing is going to be true for Optimus as well. You're going to just ask it to do anything, and then it should just perform the entire task on its own without you having to do anything along the way. And it's the same team that produced FSD, the V12, 13, 14, and now V15 software that now works on Optimus as well. Hence, I'm very confident that Optimus will be an extremely capable robot.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashok. So that covers the say.com questions. Now we will move over to analyst questions. The first question comes from Tom from RBC. Tom, please feel free to unmute yourself when you're ready. Tom, you're still on mute, so please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. All right, we're not getting any audio from Tom at the moment, so we will try to move on to Andrew, and we'll add Tom back to the queue to come in next. So Andrew, as soon as you can, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thanks so much for taking the question. So maybe just to start out on Optimus, Elon, you mentioned that there's really no supply chain today for Optimus, so you've had to mostly insource a lot of that yourself. I'm just curious, as you've gone through this exercise, are you seeing any suppliers willing to invest alongside you to set up domestic manufacturing to potentially help you scale more quickly in the U.S.? Asking that in the context of obviously you want to control your own destiny to some extent and ramp as quickly as possible, but from an investment cycle standpoint, potentially more capital efficient to have some partners help you along the way. So I'm just curious how you're thinking about that and some of the dialogue you've had with potentially some external suppliers.
Elon, you may be on mute right now. We can't hear you.
So yeah, our supplies have been great, and they've made they have made and are making tremendous investments in support of Optimus and robotaxi and whatnot. Samsung and TSMC in particular are building fabs. TSMC in Arizona and Samsung in Texas, and putting in tens of billions of dollars to build AI compute for Optimus and robotaxi. Panasonic has also invested many billions in increasing battery cell production. I'm a little under the weather here. I'm a bit ill, so if I sound a little off, I'm kind of struggling with I'm a little bit ill today. So yeah, but our partners have been great, and I'd like to thank them for their support and their investment and their hard work.
Great, thanks for that. And maybe just as a
So,
follow-up.
sorry, Andrew, we're going to have Karn hop in here for additional color briefly.
Yeah, just to add to Elon's point, that the Samsung fab that's going to be pretty significantly dedicated to future projects. That's a massive investment, multi-billion-dollar. We're seeing the same level of investment going to memory, and also new specific parts like metal injection molded parts, flexible printed circuits, and all sorts of novel new technologies that are more based for the robot as opposed to the traditional vehicle supply chain we've had. And in certain cases where we don't find a great partner, we've never hesitated from insourcing it. And we have a very capable manufacturing engineering team and a design team that helps us scale those things.
Yeah, and actually, I'd also like to thank Micron for giving us memory allocation. They've got to make some very tough decisions on memory allocation, and we really appreciate Micron making room for Tesla in the years to come, and giving us actually a very significant allocation on reasonable terms, given the pretty insane pricing of memory these days.
Great, really appreciate that color. And maybe just my follow-up on robotaxis. You guys gave a lot of great information in your prepared remarks, but there seems to be some evolving regulations at the state level, potentially around sensor requirements. So I'm just curious, as you think about your own rollout, what do you want to see, or what do you need to see from regulators to make sure that, obviously some regulation might be good, but you don't want it to be over-regulated. So what are you expecting to see? What do you want to see to make sure that this is, done in a proper way?
And we've got Lars on the line. Lars, if you wouldn't mind covering this one, if you can.
Yeah, sure, Travis. I think, we talk about regulation, particularly in the U.S., we've made a lot of headway. Just good initiatives from the federal government in terms of the FMVSS rules, moving towards, acceptance and adoption of purely built AVs, and I really appreciate the support from NHTSA on that. When it comes to like a state-to-state level, obviously the stuff in New Jersey, is a little bit disheartening. I think ultimately, as Ashok said in his opening remarks, we really focus on the performance of the vehicle, and ultimately that's what's going to drive regulators and the public to adopt it. I think the best regulations are those that provide companies and innovators with a goal or a task and allow us to figure out the solution. And when we see regulations that provide a solution before identifying the problem, we really don't, appreciate those. But as Tesla always has and will continue to do, we'll let our performance speak for itself. And I think Ashok played that out really clearly, and that'll be the foundation of our expansion moving forward.
Great. Thanks for the questions.
Thanks so much. We're going to try Tom again from RBC. Tom, can you unmute and try to speak, please? Unfortunately, Tom, we see you unmuted, but we're not hearing you, so we're going to have to send you back into the queue. Next is Alex from Bank of America. Alex, as soon as you can, please unmute yourself.
Hey, thanks for the questions here. Just a few follow-ups on Robotaxi, actually. I guess what milestones should investors be watching from here that would cause you to accelerate your fleet scaling or market deployments? Is it the further safety validation, like a miles driven per incident or something else? And then would you ever consider third-party distribution partnerships, such as with rideshare providers, to increase utilization? Or is the plan for now to keep Robotaxi fully vertically integrated? Thanks.
Yeah, we expect to be vertically integrated with Robotaxi as we are in the rest of our business. So I don't think we're going to have any demand challenges with Robotaxi. So this is the economics will be so compelling that I think we will really have a lot more desire to use the service than I think demand will outstrip our ability to service the demand. And so obviously there's no you can just go vertical in that situation. So it's really just about going through and what we call the march of nines of reliability, where you need like how many nines of reliability do you need to scale? Ideally you want 99.99999% reliable, and so it's just the march of nines of reliability is I think the only thing really constraining our growth in Robotaxi.
Great. Thanks, Elon. The next question is going to come from Colin at Wells Fargo. Colin, please unmute yourself when you're ready.
Oh, great. Thanks for taking my questions. There's been a lot of chatter about SpaceX and Tesla combining in some way. A lot of collaboration already today. Elon, do you see synergies eventually from combining the companies? Does that make sense from your perspective over time?
Well, as you can tell from all the many collaborations on so many fronts with SpaceX, and there's a lot. There's more and more overlap, especially with TerraFab. That's really going to be a gigantic project. So, but obviously we can't talk about combining companies and that kind of thing on an earnings call. It's got to be done with the appropriate process. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brandon, our General Counsel.
Yeah, no, thanks, Elon. And that's exactly right. We continue to benefit from our relationship with SpaceX, and they've been a great partner, and we have numerous beneficial transactions with them. And earlier this year, we deepened our relationship through an investment and a framework agreement. And this will allow us to continue to work with them on projects that Elon mentioned, like TerraFab and Digital Optimus.
Yeah, and there's many other things too. Obviously, you've got Grok in the car, and Grok helping drive Digital Optimus. You've also got Starlink being integrated into the Cybercab, and Starlink will be integrated into all of our vehicles, at least for markets that Starlink is active. Because for a Robotaxi situation, you need to have coverage everywhere, and there are many places, even in Silicon Valley, where the cellular coverage is terrible or sometimes non-existent, which is surprising for Silicon Valley. But I know when I drive to work, those first 10-15 minutes, I can't actually do any calls because the cellular connectivity is so bad. So we can't have Robotaxis getting stuck in these like Bermuda triangles of lack of cellular connectivity. So Starlink with its ability to do connectivity anywhere is actually quite important. So we don't have, robotaxis missing in action. And then obviously if people are sitting in the car, they're going to want to do high productivity stuff or what entertainment. And with Starlink, you can watch 4K live sports in the car, and with very low cost per gigabyte of data. That's really not feasible via the cellular system. And there's many other situations.
Yeah, I mean, I would say think of it like Ashok was mentioning about CyberCab, right? That the experience is great. In a world when you don't have to focus on driving, you have all the time in the car to do, whether it's a conference call, watch a movie or anything. That's why if you look at the CyberCab design, it has a big screen. And we've started doing CyberCab rides in our factory in Austin. And when you go through that experience, soon customers would be able to do it in not too distant future. And then you'll understand why that connectivity becomes so important.
Great. And then Colin, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just if I would follow up on Robotaxi, if I look at the launches, you've been adding cities, but the number of units is still, looks like based on media reports, sort of in the dozens as opposed to hundreds. Why not just sort of scale up Austin or one or two cities before adding cities, and sort of what do you need to sort of get that higher volume numbers in a major city? What sort of is the roadblock to sort of adding more vehicles on the ground?
Yeah, the reason we have been expanding across different cities instead of just doubling down on a single city is that we want to make sure that our stack is a very general one. It is a general one. We just want to both prove to ourselves and to other folks that it is working across a lot of different cities without too much effort per city. And that's what we see internally. And then, as Elon mentioned earlier, the growth rate has been literally exponential. Just it's in the early part of the exponential. That's why it's hard for others to comprehend. In terms of miles versus the vehicles, since these vehicles operating the robotaxi fleet drive basically continuously, as opposed to human drivers who use vehicles for maybe a couple hours a day or something like that, these vehicles are in mostly continuous operation, which means that even for a few vehicles, you can get a lot of miles out of them. And that's why we are tracking the amount of unsupervised miles or just the number of vehicles or something like that. And we want to be operating in a very efficient fleet. So all of the work that goes into the efficiency makes it even more so that we get a lot of miles per vehicle available in the fleet.
Yeah, and just to add further to this, think of it, we're trying to scale this, and we're trying to make sure that there are different kinks which would be there. And there are things not just on the software front, on the operation front, which we're also trying to tackle. So that's why we're trying to have a broader footprint to try and make sure before we go really high in terms of deployment, that we are able to sort these things out in a smaller fleet in a controlled manner.
Yeah, one of the things for CyberCab should be noted is because it is a new vehicle chassis, we need to accumulate driving data that is specific to the CyberCab before we can put a lot of them on the road. So unlike say Model 3 and Model Y and our other vehicles, where we've got a lot of vehicles on the road, millions of vehicles on the road, we don't have that for CyberCab, so we actually have to accumulate miles with CyberCabs that are retrofitted with steering wheels and brakes, acceleration, braking pedals, that kind of thing, to calibrate to the CyberCab chassis. So you'll see as we are confident about that, the number of CyberCabs in cities will increase dramatically.
Great. Our next question is come. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Lars.
If I can just add one thought here. The other reason I just want to point out is, TCO, transportation regulatory situations are different city by city, state by state. There's not a federal, framework to do that. And so the reason we're expanding city by city is to make sure that we're meeting all of those one at a time. and we're satisfying, all of the requests of each individual city and in everywhere we can. And so we have to expand, to each city to meet those requirements, and we'll continue to do so. And until all of what Ashok and Vaibhav and Ashok said, we'll follow with the scaling.
Thanks, Lars. The next question is coming from Walt from Lightshed. Walt, please unmute yourself.
Thanks. Just a quick follow-up for that Lars comment. I mean, the NHTSA administrator, Jonathan Morrison, was just on CNBC. He already, he's trying to get rid of the pedal and said, I forget his exact term, but it seemed like he wanted to get rid of the steering wheel. It seemed like that would be a gating factor. But is there other things that you need at the federal level to really kind of unlock your ability to ramp Cybercab?
The short answer is no. I mean, I think we have a great relationship with NHTSA and Director Administrator Morrison especially. And I think they're just following through with what the public wants and the world knows is coming, and they're trying to stay ahead of it and make sure that they're doing the right things in place. So we've been open and honest with them for the last couple of years about what our plans were and what we're doing, and I don't want to say we're in lockstep, but I feel like we have a partner there, and we're working together on it.
Got it. And then just, Elon, it's kind of a roadmap question, I guess. Starlink obviously is integrated in Cybercab, and you guys just talked about the connectivity for watching movies, but what about the flip side of that? Can the Cybercabs become remote hotspots for Starlink Mobile? And then similarly, roadmap question on the Semi, when do you anticipate looking at autonomy for the Semi? Because that seems like a pretty sizable market as well in terms of autonomous trucking and the need for it, given what's going on in our country right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There, as you allude to, there is a really serious shortage of truckers. So there just aren't enough people who want to drive trucks, which are crucial for transport throughout America. So an autonomous Semi is actually going to be very important to address the shortage of truck drivers. And obviously will be great for improving safety and making it easier on truck drivers to have a self-driving Semi is going to, I think, dramatically improve safety and comfort for truck drivers that use this Tesla Semi. Since the units, the total number of units of the Tesla Semi is still low and will continue to be a very small percentage even by the end of this year of our total vehicle fleet, it makes sense for us to focus our efforts, our self-driving efforts, on our high volume vehicles, so Model 3 and Y, and solving self-driving and really getting to the point where it's generalized, unsupervised self-driving for those vehicles, and Cybercab. So we expect to get self-driving working on the Tesla Semi probably around the end of this year or early next year, but I just don't want it to be a distraction on the on the march of nines of self-driving, of safety for self-driving on 3Y and Cybercab. That's so that it's taking a bit of a backseat for the next 6 months or so for autonomous Semi, but it will be, it will definitely be a big working next year and in time for the scale up to high production of Tesla Semi. For communications, I think there's an interesting angle there where you could use the Starlink terminals that are in the Tesla cars as like sort of cell towers, I suppose, or connectivity towers, basically for providing relays on the ground to cell phones and to anyone who would like Wi-Fi, basically. But I mean, it's a different subject, but obviously one could do that with the stationary Starlink terminals too.
All right. Our next question is going to come from Will at Truist. Will, please unmute yourself.
Great. Thanks so much for taking my question. Elon, you teased us a little bit about sort of the supply chain relative to Optimus, highlighting how difficult it's going to be, but we'd be really interested to understand what your propensity is to manufacture semis for this yourself. When we think about microprocessors, microcontrollers, actuators, and other semiconductors that are going to be used, it occurs to me that you have many that are commercially available. You have an option to design some but have them made at third-party fabs. You also have the option potentially to design and make them yourself. What should we think about your propensity to source these components in these different manners?
You're talking about making like microcontrollers and small, like the various computers that are in the car that operate, like the steering system and the braking system.
No,
that kind.
I'm talking about for Optimus, not for
Optimus has a lot of really specialized power electronics and circuit boards. It's all Tesla design stuff, but it is fabricated by suppliers. For Optimus 4, which will be built in Austin, that will be a much more vertically integrated supply system for Optimus 4, and that would we'd aim to have an order of magnitude more production of Optimus 4 than Optimus 3. So it's sort of aspirationally 10 million units a year versus 1 million units a year of Optimus 3. But with all the caveats there, which is insanely difficult to scale production. Optimus 4 will be much more vertically integrated. So probably doing a lot of the sort of PCB work in-house for that.
As a follow-up, well, first maybe you could talk about the timing as to when Optimus 4 should be should, let's say, start production. But the actual follow-up I wanted to ask was the plan to upgrade hardware 3 to hardware 4 in order to be able to process, I suppose it's version 15 of the and future versions of FSD. Is that still the plan, to do hardware upgrades on the cars?
I think it's going to make sense to upgrade all cars that are have less than hardware for almost any cars that have cameras, basically, because otherwise I think probably too many modifications. But anything that's got sort of that's set up for cameras, it'll be financially sensible at some point to upgrade them. But I think we'd want to upgrade them to the next generation of like next generation AI board. So it would be either like we have an upgraded AI4 chip that's sort of a medium, sort of a moderate improvement over AI4, probably reaches production around the middle of next year. And then there's also AI5, which hopefully is in volume production around the middle of next year. AI5 will initially go into Optimus. And actually making very good progress. So the Tesla chip team is really doing great work and making incredibly fast progress on AI5. And I'm very excited about the design of the Tesla AI6 chip. I think it's going to be the best edge computing chip in the world. And if somebody's got a better one, I'd like to meet that person and shake their hand, because the AI6 chip is just so good. So I think things are going really well on the chip front. And again, I'd like to thank TSMC and Samsung and Micron for the support.
Great. We are coming up on the hour, but we're going to try to squeeze Dan in. So from Barclays, Dan, please unmute yourself.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'd like to ask about the pace and path of CapEx. Elon, in the past, you've said that you'll spend as much as you can, but really efficiency seems like it's the gating factor. So, to what extent right now in this CapEx cycle is your pace of CapEx effectively capped simply because spending any more would be done in an inefficient manner? And to what extent is the pace of CapEx really the primary determinant right now in unlocking the different supply constraints that you have?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've actually, what I've asked the Tesla team to do is like really we should be spending on CapEx as fast as we can spend, as fast as we can without it being too wasteful. So we're not trying to aim for like some extremely high efficiency capital spend because that would slow things down. So it's a balance between like how much sort of capital efficiency versus time. So if we can be, it's okay to be a little less capital efficient if we get things done sooner, because that's actually going to be the higher NPV outcome for the company. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how things are going. I mean, we're doing an incredible amount of construction and production growth in so many different arenas simultaneously. I don't think there's ever been a company that's done this at the scale, maybe proportionately back when Henry Ford did the Model T or something like that, or World War II when companies were making, it had to sort of scale up weapons production. But I think probably this is the fastest industrial scale up since World War II in America.
Yeah, and I will just add a little bit on that. Basically, if you look at it, all our spend on CapEx is trying to do productive assets, right? We're basically scaling factories, whether it's Optimus, whether it's Cybercab, whether it's LFP factory, which went into operation earlier this year, or the semi factory, or even putting in a semiconductor fab in there, as well as, we are trying to get a lot of solar manufacturing in the US. In fact,
yeah,
our
very important.
plants,
This is underrated, by the way. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to. Basically, the amount of solar manufacturing which happens in the US, we're just going to multiply it with an order of magnitude. And none of these things are easy, right? Because what you have to do is, in order to build a factory, you have to start from ground zero. So just so you know, again, I don't think we have shared this. We end up being the general contractor for almost all our construction facilities because we are doing that much construction. And so going back to what Elon was saying, we're going at a very rapid scale. And yes, this means that we are doing a lot of things all at the same time. And that's why, we just have to go as fast as we can, humanly make things work in the real world.
Yeah, our CapEx efficiency, I think, is off scale good.
Great. Already. And then Dan, did you have a follow-up that we can wrap up with?
Yeah, maybe just a quick question on energy storage, which I think is a key topic here. Maybe you can just address, to what extent is energy storage going to be supply constrained for the foreseeable future, and then just to what extent are the deployments right now the typical peak shaving that you'd see at utilities versus you've talked about in some of your materials. For battery storage, addressing the quality of power issue for data centers, given the sharp fluctuations in power use, where you have an advantage given software or power electronics. So just what is that demand curve right now between data centers versus just broader peak shaving for utilities?
Well, it's still mostly, it's not just peak shaving, but it's also grid balancing. So it's not just like the packs are on briefly, but for balancing power from wind generation and solar generation, batteries are awesome. I mean, the solar battery combination will be how the vast majority of energy in the world is produced in the future. that's already, of course, how all of the Starlink satellites are powered, is with solar panels and batteries. So, and you can just think of Earth like a giant satellite. There's far more power available from the sun than anything else by far, and we think power constraints are going to be there already are a major issue for AI. Just turning on the AI computers, the AI compute demand is so high that people are having even the so-called the hyperscalers are having trouble turning on their AI compute and finding the power and then smoothing the power with especially for the training runs where the power cycles dramatically in a very short period of time. You can have during a training run the power consumption can drop by 70% for 100 milliseconds, and you really need fast-acting advanced power electronics to be able to smooth out these massive changes in power, especially during the training runs. So that's why SpaceX has bought so many megapacks for the data centers. It's actually mostly for smoothing out the power for the training runs. But it will also be useful for being able to tap more power from the grid by if you tell utilities that they can that they will not need to supply power during the worst hours of the worst days of the year because the batteries can handle it, then that makes it much easier for them to give you power. In fact, I mean, probably the best way to scale total energy production in the United States is simply using batteries, because there's, I think, around 1.2 or 1.3 terawatts of power production in the US, but the average power usage is only half a terawatt. So you've got 2.5 times as much power generation as the average usage. That means you could potentially double the energy output of the United States just with batteries. So we see demand for Megapack being very, very high in the future.
Alrighty. That is all the time we have for today for Q&A. We appreciate everyone's questions, and we look forward to talking to you next quarter. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
OK， 听完了，好乱啊，太乱了。我想一下，这个我们要回顾一下嘛。我自己也没有整理好，我也许以后可以考虑，就说做个什么关于财报总结。总的来说，像的印象看起来，这次财报回答的给人的感觉还是比较弱气的吧。你可以看到，就说至少股价不是很好，尤其是就是2个下跌嘛，一个是这个财报那个报表发布的时候，就收市后那一波，还有就是老马开始致辞的时候那一波，其实就也跌得挺大，后面倒还好，后面其实有点回上来。老马给我的那个开场致辞给我的感觉还是比较回复，就比较弱啊，就是各个方面都点点，都是把好的方面说一说。但其实有些核心的地方还是没有去点。我看老马说什么？老马说核心就是说历史最高交付，这我们都知道啊。那 FSD 的采用率或者说市场占有率，或者市场渗透率应该这样说，逐渐变高，这个都是挺好，但我们都知道的一个事情。能源和 AI 的电力需求这一点其实是一个比较好的点啊，这我之前也不知道为什么也没有多去想，但却现在想起来应该是挺合理的。那么这个应该是比较重要的，就是我觉得特斯拉接下来一个比较重要的，就是怎么说呢？一个基调就是它会有很多新的投资吧，因为它现在在太多的产品要做了，都到了关键时期啊。它 或者说这前2年都在干嘛呀？就很多东西拖了很久的东西，都感觉像是一个拖延症，拖久了之后，就是很多东西都堆起来了哈。就像机器人对吧 ？Cybercap、锂矿还有3米的产能，然后现在太阳能这边也很，光伏这边也很重要，因为说很多是因为就是说要跟中国脱钩嘛，所以很多都是就是光伏的元件，它要把产线。以前大部分是采购中国的嘛，现在它在自己那边美国那边建起来，好像还有好多个我漏掉的一些，对 ，Robotaxi 也拖的时间很久，可能还有一些新的算力单元的一些产品也要做，所以他们就是手上堆了很多活嘛，然后这些都是要花钱的，而且这些都不是说1-2个季度就能够花完，都接下来都是要可能1年、2年、3年的都要去投下去，尤其是机器人这边的话，可能是投的时间是比较长的。我估计是 Cybercap 可能就是接下来2-3个季度可能就是特别重要的花钱会比较多一些。光伏和锂矿的话，可能也就是已经开始进正轨了吧。3米呢是明年的一个花钱重点之一，太阳能估计得持续很长时间，所以我的意思就是接下来花钱会很多啊。老板虽然提了，但其实说的也不是很多，我觉得这可能会成为。以后特斯拉接下来的2-3年那个基调就是花钱，然后财务报表也就不再好看了，那可能其实会很动摇，就说可能投资者对特斯拉的一个信心，我觉得是有可能，但也不一定啊，就说因为其实特斯拉现在的估值跟它的一个卖车业务的好坏其实关系大家都说不是那么大嘛。关键还是它能不能把机器人和那个自驾这一块 FSD 这个东西的落地能做好，所以这些其实是更重要的。呀，我有点看不到你的弹幕，拉大一点。特斯拉国内和国外算2个企业，财报不相通啊，这个理解是不对的吧？他们还是要合在一起算的，这个还是要合在一起算的。然后我记得就说第2季度它的总基调的话，应该是销售大了很多啊。这个后来好像也是在后面回答问题的时候提到，可能就是因为欧洲还有很多一些市场的 FSD 开始开放了嘛，所以其实刺激了很大一波销量。我估计还跟一些促销有关系啊，但可能 FSD 是一个比较大的一个关系。Anyway，反正就是花钱这边提了一下，然后这算是一个可能短期负面、长期正面的一个东西啊。然后的话，机器人这边它其实，哎呀，这个东西还是欠费啊，关键是画饼加实现还需要一段时间，估计现在还是很难看到，就说一些实际嘛，也估计短时间不能看到实际，反正还在，尤其是现在机器人赛道其实已经变得非常火热而卷了。那么特斯拉这边其实就是说它提一个卖点，就是说它是真正的自己去可以做学习和执行的，不是说做一些预设和训练。这个我倒也去参观过国内的一些机器人工厂，其实就是大量的一个牛马，怎么说是用便宜的牛马去疯狂的训练一些简单的动作啊，就是说雇个几十号人、上百号人去训练，去产生大量的数据去训练一些简单的操作，然后学会了以后再学下一个，其实就那并不是一个并不是一个长久之计啊，只能说是短期去彰显一些进度才能做的一些事情。但其实就说，哎呀，花钱买秀吧，关键就是那个经济上是行不通的。他说特斯拉现在能自己就是靠观察别人就是人类的任务执行，然后进行学习，然后自己去做，这个其实他们也没有证明的，说他们至少目标是这样。那他现在还没有证明，这个其实就真正有意义的机器人的一个经济上、产业上或者是价值上说得通的话，那这样才是能说通的。那他并没有证明他们的机器人现在有这个能力，只能说是一个目标。提了供应链不成熟，要他们自制，这个跟后面的问题其实有点矛盾。回答问题的时候有点矛盾，但是。也对吧？这是不同的方面。这边特别警告了一下 S 曲线的一开始会非常慢，其实就是很弱势的一个说法，就你们不要催我嘛，不要催我，接下来的就产量可能接下来几个季度可能还是不会有什么走量的，所以就不要催啊，也不要有什么太高的希望。这个基线这块说白了就是说， 可能接下来2个季度还是不会看到什么特别重大的更新，这是我解读下来的一个感觉啊。虽然这个，肯定是把它放在了一个最大的位置上，到后面很多次提了机器人应该是未来最大的一个业务板块。Terafab， 这个刚才为什么是全角？先改过来了。Terafab 的话，接下来会有位置的公布啊，就是这个是单独做一个发布会啊，这边就没多提。然后可能是在奥斯汀吧，对，然后就是跟 SpaceX 的联动啊，芯片就是芯片 AI 设就是对 AI4和 AI5芯片这些也提了一下。这边还提了一个，就是他们自己可能会做一个算力机柜啊，可以就说灵活的去部署算力，这个感觉他们去做了一个整合，就相当于现在可能是我记得戴尔还有一些主机厂商在做的一些事情，看他们也想做，去整合一些 AI 算力机柜作为一个新产品。OK， 就不知道他们能不能做成啊。Anyway， 我觉得老马这边的话，就各种散落的东西都提了一下，特别重大的我可能没有听到，整体给我一种还是挺弱势的感觉，尤其是接下来的很长一段时间里面，可能是以花钱会比较多的那么一个基调吧。然后很多就是大家特别期待的业绩，可能还不是短时间能拿出来的，像机神也好，就是 Robotaxi、Cybercab 这几个都是今年可能我听这感觉都是今年你都不能太去指望它。那么机器人可能就更不要提了，更加久远了。所以他今年就说特斯拉感觉说今年你要找一个很明确的一个期待点，其实就很难，我就觉得没有什么短期内特别值得期待的东西，都是比较长期的一个东西。而短期你能看得到的就是它可能会各种烧钱，然后财务可能会变得比较差。其实我个人是比较乐见的，就是之前很长一段时间特斯拉一直是就是每个季度都是盈利不多但也不少，但是花钱就很佛系，这个其实我不愿意乐见，就反而是那个之前量产 Model 3那段时间就那种比较刺激啊，就是花钱是疯狂的花，但是进度也是真的是有进度啊。然后呢，就是外界的质疑会比较大，股价可能也会比较承压，但是就是一种预想前提嘛，就是感觉为起飞做真正准备的那种感觉。那其实我觉得才真正能让对未来有所期待。那如果说它一直只是为了照顾一个短期的一个财务的状况，而在花钱上面比较犹豫，或者在项目的研发投入等等方面就比较保守的话，其实那我觉得反而会是让我比较失望。对啊，老马的发言感觉让我比较弱势，财务这边反正具体的东西很多啊，但这个你要跟上他的一个英语还是比较难。那他这里也提到，就说这边说接下来是一个大的投资时期吧，R&D 的大大增加是这次一个就是运营成本变大的一个主要原因之一嘛。CapEx 就是也是说投资花销的话也是加倍了。而且说接下来2年还会持续增加，而且要举债，这个举债这可能是个比较重磅的事情。举债300亿的话，那这个其实对股价还是会有影响，所以感觉这个其实就给我的一种基调的。如果让我预测的话，我觉得接下来特斯拉可能会有一段比较长时间的一个股价承压期啊，有各种各样，尤其是财务上对它会有各种各样的质疑。而且他还一下子还拿不出特别好的一个时机，那实际的话，至少也得等到明年了。而且说实话，特斯拉跳票也不是1-2年的事情了，所以明年也未必有特别好的一个时机所以这个股价可能会受一段很长时间的一个承压。那承压的话，就意味着可能有机会啊，就看吧。Anyway。还有就是他们这边的本来的 Q&A， 就是他们网站上投票的这些问题其实是非常好的，有些问题是非常尖锐的，但是被他们一股脑的就直接给一次性回复掉了，就这个就特别扯啊，这个太扯了。这个而且我感觉就没有回复什么东西，就是这个他们 AI 部门的 VP 嘛，他做了一些就很多就是跟 AI 相关的一些回复，我觉得其实是 你看一下它这边的问题啊，你看，本来第一个投票问题嘛，就说现在 Robotaxi 它的一个运营，它的主要的瓶颈在哪里啊？就现在扩张的瓶颈在哪里？包括就说是Cybercab 的一个生产量产，它之后是一个大概怎样的趋势嘛？然后现在的话就说是 Optimus， 就说擎天柱的量产现在是一个什么情况，对吧？比如说2027年是什么东西，但这个他没有回答。然后这个其实是呢，这个我估计是他们最不想直接面对的问题，就是当这次投票中第3个问题啊，就散户的第3个问题非常尖锐啊。你看他这个是怎么说的？特斯拉就已经连续3个季度啊，就说是没有达成你们之前的一个预期目标了。尤其是看一下25年的时候，他们说是说25年年底的时候要覆盖美国大概1半的左右的州吗？或者地区？但现在的话，现在最近只有7个城市啊，现在只有7个城市，这个差别太大了，这有点问责的感觉。然后短期内的话，特斯拉打算完成一些什么东西啊？有什么短期目标啊？这个完全就是一种你们食言了，来兴师问罪的感觉。这个就比较尖锐了，我其实很期待这种回答，但这边其实没有什么特别好的回答，他就说我们其实特别注意安全啊，就说一下安全的，就没有一个 zero notable accidents 吧。其实Robotaxi 是有事故的啊，就是 Robotaxi 的事故的话，目前有的机器好像都是交警是判了，就说是 Robotaxi 这一侧是无责，就是其他的驾驶员的一个责任，由他们引起的事故到现在确实没有。但是我要说的 Robotaxi 现在其实走的量非常小啊，我估计他们后面的问题当中其实也没有否认掉，就说很多就是网络传的一些报道嘛，就是说其实每个城市它的车辆的数量是反而在下降的，后面他们其实也间接的算是承认了这点嘛，所以它其实没有在走量的，没有在走量的情况下，你说你没有事故，这个其实不是那么值得吹的一件事情啊，我觉得。然后这边说增长啊，这个2位数的增长是啥意思？但是它有增长，后面还有下降了啊，所以这个我觉得回答的不是很实诚啊，就说的它的就 fleet 的增长就感觉不是特别实诚。对啊，然后后面其实也有很多问题啊，你说像是其实很多都是对于那个自驾的车队的扩张啊，机器人的量产啊，这个是讲 Terafab 的，这个他说也就不提了。对，这边就很多非常好的问题啊，就被直接过掉了，非常可惜。尤其这个第3个问题，其实感觉比较尖锐啊，被他们逃走。对，然后后面散的问题其实还是有一些亮点的，我找一找看。是供应链的问题，其实有点牛头不对马嘴啊，这个。因为上面它的问题的意思我看他问的问题的意思呢，是说跟机器人相关的比较特别的供应链，不是现在短缺嘛？就说特斯拉是不是应该联合一些供应商一起去做这些开发供应链的事情？这样的话，它可以少投些资本嘛，资本开销可以小一点。但是老板这边回复的像是这些老的合作方，台积电啊、三星啊，就做芯片的、做电池，这些其实就是跟他们在做车的业务上面就已经长期合作了，所以其实不是说是就是在那些机器人的供应链上短缺的这些传统环节所以这个其实打了个牛头不对马嘴。后面的话是这个其实是这个其实有感觉出有点无奈的回答了。就 1.2 这个问题的一个背景就是它的补充问题，就是应该是在哪几个州？有几个州它现在出台了一些监管的一些法案啊，就是要求就是说如果你们要做 Robotaxi 的话，就是无人出租车的话，你需要有数种的那个传感器，就其实是对那种纯视觉的一种否定啊，就你肯定要3种传感器啊，摄像头加雷达加光学雷达，或者反正就可能加一个3种传感器的话，那其实就是对纯视觉其实不同吧。然后他们这边我反正说了有些东西，我听到比较重要的可能就是确实是感觉到对某些州是有点遗憾。那他们说自己这边的话就是只能说是把安全做好，把安全做好，有了数据之后最终会影响监管的决策。 其实特斯拉最近其实它的安全数据也是挺有一些网络上有一些争议的哈，而且最近还有一些就是它有些调查也在进行当中啊，就是让特斯拉披露一些自己的内部的一些那个研发的文件，就是尤其是关于那个最近好像也可以讨论嘛，就说装上毫米波或者声学雷达到底有没有好处，要求特斯拉公布一些内部的一个文件，还有的话就是可能 FSD 最近是5月份吧，应该是5月份那个总事故数量是到达多少200多起吧，好像是创了一个历史新高啊，而且是一个剧烈增长。这个其实又是一个，也许只是单个月吧，反正也不是一个好的趋势。虽然一方面就是 FSD 总的用户数量在增长，但是其实如果说你的安全性在增高的话，也在变强的话，你最好的就是说你的那个总事故数量是一个平的趋势会比较好。但是现在那个 FSD 应该它的事故数量应该是一个偏增长的一个趋势，这个也是一个可能也是一个让人有点担忧的事情。反正就说现在其实还是挺承压的。我们看一下那个什么来着，对，就是5月是207个，这还是比较官方的一个那个统计嘛。美国那个高速安全那一块，你可以看一下那个，能看到吧？不好意思。对啊，它这个图的话，你可以看到就是 FSD 的那个总的事故还是一个在稳步增长，最近有点提速增长的那么一个过程。可以看出特斯拉可能是有些急躁，但同时他们又有一点耐心的感觉，就是他们现在在强调安全，尤其是那个 Robotaxi 这里，它的走量现在是非常慢，看来还是对安全方面其实还是挺有担忧。就还是挺有顾虑的，我觉得，而且我刚刚跟你们提过吧，就是在一开始的时候我提了，对这张图嘛，这个是 Robotaxi 的一个总的里程数啊，其实的话是在放慢的，就是它总里程数在放慢，虽然说地区在扩大，但是总的里程数的积累在放慢，那说明确实肯定是测试车辆是在减小的，这个是基本上从他们官方的这个图面可以确认。OK， 我再来看一下，Robotaxi 的关键节点和其他平台，这个没什么意思啊。哦，对，这个很好，就是 SpaceX 和特斯拉合并啊，这个就是前一阵子其实就是小作文和小道消息比较喜欢传的东西。反正就是说，我们的合作很多，合作一直很好啊，业务上有很多重叠啊，但你说合并不合并，这种是不能谈的，对吧？这种是就是你乱讲话的话，就这重大的一个叫什么财务问题了，这种是绝对不能披露的信息。但其实就有点给大家留了个悬念的感觉哈，所以大家肯定还是会继续去脑补，就说是 SpaceX 特斯拉的合并。在我看的话，其实老马有这个想法的话，我估计并不奇怪。但是你要把特斯拉体量那么大的一个公司给吞进来，那实在是太难了。而且特斯拉的股东其实还是，那他这个要多少钱才能收购？这个就是你哪儿搞这么多钱的问题。这个也不是不行，那一定要你先把 SpaceX 的体量做到真的很大啊。现在 SpaceX 你就说它的市值虽然说已经很大了，但是真正它的资金体量，其实资金流动体量其实还是比不上特斯拉的，所以这个我估计你得把 Space 做大做强啊，接下来你再去讨论跟特斯拉的合并，不然的话这个事情就有点就是为了噱头就是为了就现在很多投资者只是为了小作文，为了炒情绪才去宣传这个，但其实从合理的业务布局来说的话，我觉得也不是不行，但是你得把体量做大才好说。反正这个现实的财务层面有很多困难，我觉得这是当然是个人的想法。这里就是我最近的一个讨论，就是那个为什么要在就是那个 Cybercab 上面把 Starlink 的天线装上去啊？这个有人就自己说这个有什么必要吗？ 你这个自家都是本地的，你就搞个卫星天线干嘛？那么他们这边也算是给了一个解释啊。我觉得就说，反正就是让车内不要断网嘛，就是大家都在车内可以有 WiFi 使用啊。尤其是你如果不需要驾驶的话呢，其实就更加希望就是能够上网干点事情，刷刷手机什么。但老实说，我觉得这个理由不是那么的强哈。我估计他们有点我是不是一个 why not 的感觉啊？对，但是说如果说你 Cybercab 如果开到鸟不拉屎的地方去啊，那其实就会每晚会很难受嘛。但一般来说，你想坐出租车，其实你在出租车里面时间一般是不会特别长的，对吧？又不说是如果特别长的话，你就坐火车什么的可能会长一点。我很难想象，就说你在车里面就说待2-3个小时啊，或者说你坐出租到很偏的地方去，这种都不是那么常见哈。我觉得就是说出租车里面会缺乏手机信号的场景比例应该不会特别高。虽然他说美国有些地方就整体来说可能哪怕城市里有1半左右的覆盖率覆盖也不是很好，但是那可能还是更多是在市郊啊。我觉得这个其实理由还是不充分，但这个东西其实会有其他的潜力，就看他们但他们也没有说出什么其他的一个理由。那这个3.1的话就是那个车队数量小的问题啊，对，这个就是他们这回答就感觉是乱枪在打，就每个人说的都有点不一样，可以说了很多理由。但我估计还是真正的理由就是他们现在对这个安全可能还是不放心，所以就是那个 Robotaxi 现在车队数量其实反而变小了。可以看到就是还是跟那句话嘛，就是这个就还是这个那刚才挡住了是吧？这个图它的里程积累数现在变慢了。为什么不是特斯拉收购 SpaceX？让我想一下，特斯拉它的未来讲的话，就你看，如果你们相信老马画饼的话，其实 SpaceX 的一个增长潜力应该是要远比特斯拉大的，对吧？虽然说他们现在说最大的产品是机器人，对吧？机器人会量很大，但其实一个机器人到底是多大的产量，这个其实我觉得预估是比较难的，因为这个很大程度上取决于它机器人的功能性有多强，其实你要算其实不是很好算。哪怕就说你把它做的比较乐观，他们这边也提到，就是说他们不是提到长期来看能源会占到特斯拉总业务的20%嘛？那说白了充其量机器人可能就是一个50%、60%啊，你往乐观去算的话，也就是说其实是特斯拉现在的往长期去看，那么加上机器人业务之后，它的总业务量可能是现在的，对吧？翻倍以上，就3倍、4倍、5倍啊，就差不多了。你要翻一个数量级，其实是比较困难，就是你要把特斯拉做到现在业务量的10倍，其实是有一定的难度的，但是 SpaceX 它想目标的话，应该是就是往100倍这个数量级上面去增长，对吧？因为无论是下一代星链的话，无论是数量还是质量上面都是有一个质的提升的。光星链的话，其实就是一个几十倍的一个服务增长，然后你再加上算力卫星，所以其实怎么算都是会往100倍更多的。而且算力卫星这个东西到底是能不能做成，还能做成一个多大的规模，都不是那么好说。所以它其实是100倍往上是完全有这个想象空间的，甚至你可以去想象 Space 做1000倍的增长，这个是有这个想象空间的。所以如果你往好的方面去想，对吧？你往坏的方面去想的话，这两个就不用去讨论合并的方向，你只能往好的方面去想。往好的方面去想的话，那么就是那只能是 SpaceX 去收购特斯拉，我觉得才是合理，因为 SpaceX 的体量会更大，对吧？然后叙事上的话也更加说得通一些，因为特斯拉的话，它就是一个电的主题嘛，电去囊括太空，这个说不通。但是你说太空去囊括电啊，这个就挺合理的，对吧？我们说了有点多，对，他们反正说了很多各种各样的理由。唯一比较说得通的一点，可能就是说 他们现在优先是把场景去拓宽，可能是更多是场景适应经验，然后再去积累数据。我觉得还是就是有真正的原因，可能还是就是放不开啊，真的放不开。我觉得这边都不是特别说通，就他们可以说在走量之前这些东西，先去把这些东西做好，那是会有很多好处，可以这样说。但是如果说，但是这不能成为你不走量的一个理由啊。只是说现在走量的话，就意味着可能效率会比较低一点。但是如果没有什么明确的原因限制你走量的话，就是这个 Robotaxi，你还是愿意去走量的，就像是两步走嘛，就说你区域也要扩张，对吧？扩张，然后新的城市、新的监管这些你都要去扩张，但是你数据的积累也是又是另外一个方面，这是个相乘的一个关系嘛。你为什么就单纯不走量啊，去做其他的东西优先呢？我觉得可能还是因为走量是有困难，就是他们可能对安全这块还是不放心啊。因为把 Cybercab 当 Starlink 可以当成热点，移动基站，这个脑补，老马都觉得可能不特别想，哎，我好像没有想到过这点，这个但老马也不觉得这个说通了，对吧？但是老马这个容我想一想的感觉，对，这句话其实我觉得这段觉得是一种挺好的东西，这段听得比较清楚啊，我觉得算是一个理念嘛，就是这也是接下来一个基调嘛，就是他们对 CapEx 这一块方面，但是因为之前很长一段时间特斯拉在强调它的效率嘛，就说是节约成本啊，就是抠嘛，对吧？抠是特斯拉的一大美德。但是你要去做扩张、去做投资的时候，做新产线的时候，其实你就不能太在意这个效率，对吧 ？efficiency 你就不能太抠钱。那这边就是老马其实说是啊，就要强调快，强调不能太浪费。但其实总的听下来，我还是觉得他们这几个人回答都是更强调快啊，而不是说是想要就是强调抠的问题。所以接下来我估计他们内部的给我的感觉是要尽可能的快速花钱的，这个基调应该是比较一致的。当然后面举了很多例子啊，光伏也是一个例子。其实特斯拉的光伏一直是一种半死不活的状态啊，之前好几年状态，现在可能是被逼着要搞起来了，对吧？他们自己开始做光伏产线了，这个其实要一段时间的积累哈，这个并不是说一蹴而就的，但是之前半死不活的太阳能产业，其实太阳能板块说不定以后会变得更加重要，而且大家知道一下，光伏这个能够跟那个 SpaceX 对得上，算力卫星它的光伏，而且是比较昂贵的这种光伏板，光伏元件是需求量是比较大的，这个其实可能会形成一个比较大的一个合作项目。行，这边说能源储存的一个长期的东西，能源储存跟 AI 训练其实倒是确实是现在说到电力的话，其实另外一点比较大的一变化就是对 AI 的插进了一脚，一个是绝对的量会变大，他这边提到一个很有意思的一点，就是说 AI 在跑训练任务的时候，比如说它的跑一个 cycle 对吧，任务可能会它会有一个剧烈起伏，比如它一个循环跑完了再会走。那它的电力需求会突然间的下降，而且这种是可能就是毫秒级的一个大幅的起伏。那么你要通过传统的一些电网的调节手段的话，那就太慢。那电池的一个作为电网储能的一个调节的一个最大的优势是它的一个毫秒级响应嘛，就是超快速的响应。那么这个是其他像是什么你新开一个峰值电站或者什么水力储能或者什么机械储能。都没有办法那么快的响应，只有电池能做到，这个倒是挺说得通的。这个其实在现在这个场景下，就是你把 AI 这个叙事对电网的一个冲击拿进来的话，其实现在就电池储能这个事情是非常非常说得通，而且是非常有吸引力的。这个我觉得是一个储能这一块其实是一个比较大的一个环境变化。OK。那大概就这些啊，我今天没有什么整理，就是大概听一下财报，反正 最重要的基调，我反正就是觉得现在应该是特斯拉进入了算是一个新的时期吧。从开始重视短期的盈利或者不温不火的没什么重大更新的状态，进入到一个要憋屈的烧钱也不是说憋屈吧，就说疯狂的烧钱，然后受人指责，然后还拿不出什么特别亮眼的成果的一段时期可能会是比较黑暗的，但可能也是但如果你觉得这个它能够最终能够把这些成果都拿出来，那么接下来可能会有比较多的机会反正大家看吧，就我的判断可能是这样的一个基调，以后肯定会有机会，但是可能会比较压抑的你也可以先不管特斯拉，对吧？过个一段时间再过来看看，就说特别惨你就补个一点然后慢慢一点补，然后可能到2-3年后才能柳暗花明，那他可能才会真正的重新接触博士，然后踏入下一个台阶的我是觉得特斯拉应该是听这个财报给我的感觉是短期1年甚至2年的时间内都不会有特别明显的爆点除非他搞个什么 SpaceX 合并，那也不大可能，因为 SpaceX 现在我还说 SpaceX 要把自己的体量先做大不然的话他这个合并是我觉得很难说服任何人那就应该做不成所以那个肯定还是也得合并的事情也得等到2-3年以后吧，至少2-3年以后所以现在特斯拉可能短期没有什么特别的爆点嘛，我觉得我看不到它它就是爆发式股价抬升的一个理由我看不到那方面的存在的理由，但它现在算是蓄势嘛，花钱做产品做各种东西，这个其实做未来做准备，但这些也不是发芽吧，开花结果肯定都要再等不少时间大概就这样吧，这个财报还是比较有意思的合并年底Kimi 3年底擎天柱就好了 I don't think so 我不觉得擎天柱都看吧，现在 Terafab 可能是比较有意思的 Terafab它现在其实短期内的话它还是有些其他的一些怎么说，财务上还是有些办法的，但是有一点辗转腾挪的感觉，所以他现在可以卖对吧，可以卖一些算力单元，他自己在开发一些产品，然后能源这边其实应该是还是比较能打就他还是有一些现金支出但是可能撑不出他的烧钱速度光伏它这边做起来的，它自己这边供应可能都供应不上，对光伏肯定也是烧钱，短时间内要找到回报大于投入，那也得再过一段时间。对，反正就是 Terafab 时间它现在选址都没定Terafab 你说反正就说它现在我们讨论它的时间点了，它现在建厂，它得量产，它得开始生产的话。或者开始量产的话，总得2年的时间总是要的吧？对啊，这个你也不能指望 Terafab 这2年对它有什么业绩加持，只是叙事的一个加持吧。叙事上呢，更多的只是烧钱对所以接下来特斯拉一段时间，我觉得可能会比较缺乏一个亮眼的战绩但是烧钱大家会看得见，所以我对它的接下来一段时间的股价综合趋势是比较不看好的反正不看好的话就看有没有机会有没有以后慢慢囤股票的机会希望股价什么一飞冲天，我觉得这种幻想可能性不大行那这就是我听的特斯拉2026年第2季度财报，然后呢自己加上自己的一些感想，那就这样对，顺便一提，就是我有个想法，就是因为国内现在的一些讲美股现在可能会管理比较严嘛，所以之后 我可能也有兴趣去做一些相关的，尤其是特斯拉SpaceX 现在也有财报，或者说也有很多消息了。我觉得航天股专门如果再去讲一些东西，如果是讲的比较深的话，我会更加主要的发到油管上面，我觉得会比较安全。这期我还是会 B 站和油管两边都发，但是以后可能有些跟投资关系度比较高的东西，我就只发在油管上面，这可能是接下来的一些变化。这个如果大家不知道我油管有账号的话，其实也可以关注一下。油管那边非常冷清啊，大家可以去帮我帮我送温暖是吧？行，那这期就到这里了哈，感谢大家的收听啊。那我就期待，对，还有就是比较期待就是明天的新舰发射，以及就说SpaceX 的首次财报也已经定档了，是8月4号，这个那个当时也是就更加有意思，这个也当是一个练习吧。OK，那就这样，那我们就明天和下次再见，拜拜。